So we have seen programs or problems which cannot be solved in the traditional paradigm. Now, what is the solution? So we are going into something called neural networks. Without further introduction, let's get into the topic. The world of patterns. So like I discussed before, this is the problem we are trying to solve. Let's see some examples. We have seen face recognition. Another not a very obvious example is driving, a car driving. Driving a car, if you try to implement or automate using a traditional computer program, it can get very difficult. There are so many different conditions and permutations out there you will have to handle in the program. So driving a car is very pattern oriented, very learning oriented. A lot of things like we do in our daily life, like playing tennis, playing badminton, playing any game for that matter. Anything required what we call muscle memory. That is all come to patterns. And most difficult of almost everything is the natural language processing, which is achieved by all these recently evolved chatbots like ChatGPT and things like that. So NLP, natural language processing. Some of these problems are easier to solve. For example, things like muscle memory probably depends on the task you're trying to achieve. Self-driving cars, almost solved, but it is still evolving. Face recognition, again, not as difficult as probably something like NLP. Different level of complexity based on the problem. Then there are a lot of other things like voice, finding out the patterns in voice. Some of us can identify the voice of our parents and close relatives, friends, and family. It's a very difficult task which brain does. So all these, if we try to emulate using if-else, it's not going to fly. It's not going to work. I don't know how much experience you have with programming, but with my level, I can tell you, you will end up with a code base which is so huge that no one wants to maintain. So many if-else conditions will be there. Very difficult. Now, how we can solve these problems? These are very important problems. Since the inception of digital era, people are trying to solve these problems. These are problems which is solved only by human beings at the moment. Face recognition, car driving, playing games. Muscle memory is playing games and doing regular activities in our daily life. Natural language processing, voice. All these are very important problems. How we can solve it. So we failed with our computers in these tasks. Now what is next? So in this case, what we did was we tried to emulate the human brain. The human brain are created or composed of a particular type of cells called neurons. We try to emulate that particular thing, and that's where neural networks come in. Almost all the development of AI recently is based on neural networks. Again, pretty simple stuff like our NAND gate, which creates the whole digital world. These neurons or digital neurons or nodes, whatever they call it, they are pretty simple things which has inputs and outputs, some waits and buys and activation and things like that. They are fairly straightforward, simple things. Kind of a cut down version of the human neurons, but they get this thing done in a different way. So what I can do right now is to go through the wiki page of this neural networks and go through some details. In this lesson, we are not going to get into the neural networks because that's not the purpose. We are putting context right here. Why we need all these things and where we are placing our training. So we have seen something called neural network to solve the problem of patterns. So patterns like images, voice, anything we experience in our daily life. Now, without going into much details, let's see how we can get into or understand neural network in a better way.